Hello, I want to talk to you today about the term welfare queen and the very important part that they left out. Aid to Dependent Children, ADC, was a federal assistance program established in 1935 as part of the Social Security Act. Its purpose was to provide financial aid to children in low-income households, particularly in cases where a parent was absent or unable to support the family. Before ADC, similar programs existed at the state level under the name Mother's Pensions. These early welfare initiatives laid the foundation for ADC, but were marked by significant racial and economic disparities. The predecessor, Mother's Pensions, 1911 to 1935, prior to the establishment of ADC, states implemented Mother's Pensions, also known as Mother's Aid programs. These were designed to provide financial support to impoverished single mothers, particularly widows, allowing them to stay home and care for their children instead of seeking employment. The first Mother's Pension Law was enacted in Illinois in 1911, and by the 1920s, nearly every state had some form of the program. However, these programs were decentralized, and eligibility was determined at the state level, leading to inconsistent benefits and discriminatory practices. Racial disparities in early welfare programs. Although Mother's Pensions aimed to assist low-income mothers, Black women were largely excluded, particularly in the South. Many state policies restricted aid to white widows, reinforcing racial and economic inequities. Even in northern states, where Black mothers had slightly better access, they received aid in much smaller numbers compared to white women. The prevailing societal view was that Black women should work as domestic laborers or agricultural workers rather than receive government assistance. The establishment of Aid to Dependent Children, ADC, with the passage of the Social Security Act in 1935, ADC was created to provide federal assistance to children in need. Unlike Mother's Pensions, ADC expanded eligibility beyond widows to include single, abandoned, and unemployed parents. However, states retained control over administration and eligibility requirements, which continued to allow discriminatory practices. Many southern states imposed additional restrictions, such as suitable home tests, which are used to deny aid to Black families on moral grounds. Despite being a federally funded program, ADC remained deeply influenced by state-level decisions. Many Black families, particularly in the South, were denied benefits or received significantly lower amounts than white families. States used various tactics to restrict Black participation, including imposing high bureaucratic barriers and requiring Black mothers to work in low-wage jobs rather than stay home with their children. These discriminatory practices persisted into the 1960s until civil rights activism and federal court rulings forced changes. In 1962, ADC was renamed Aid to Families with Dependent Children, AFDC, expanding coverage to include two-parent households under certain conditions. However, racial and economic stigmatization of welfare recipients persisted, leading to significant reforms in the 1990s. In 1996, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, TANF, replaced AFDC, introducing strict work requirements and time limits on benefits. The history of ADC and its predecessor, Mother's Pensions, reflects both progress and persistent racial inequities in America's welfare system. While these programs provided crucial support for struggling families, Black Americans faced systemic discrimination that limited their access to benefits. Over time, legal and social movements worked to reduce these disparities, but challenges remain in ensuring equitable access to social welfare programs. The legacy of ADC highlights the need for continued efforts to address racial and economic inequality in public assistance policies.